Thanks for joining. Great to see your faces and your names. Hello and welcome to the Brooklyn Rail's 728th New Social Environment. I'm Eleanor, a Programs Associate here at the Rail, and I have the pleasure and privilege of being your MC today for a conversation featuring Gian Marco Riccardo Forte, Hillary Brown-Istrefi, Joe Wiegand, Philip Trevino, Daniel Diaz, Joey Kipp, Annabella Lensu, and Reverend Dr. Donna Schaper. We are also thrilled to welcome poet Reed Rushes here to close today's program. Before we get started, the Brooklyn Rail acknowledges Black Lives Matter. Here in New York, we are on Lenape-Hoking, the unceded land and waters of the Wappinger, Canarsie, Munsee, and Lenni Lenape people of the Delaware Nation and the Shinnecock Indian Nation. We recognize land acknowledgements are not a replacement for necessary decolonial work, but they serve as a reminder of place, of the legacies of dispossession and enslavement that sustain and enrich stolen land we are speaking from. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the artists from Pioneers Go East Collective. Gian Marco Riccardo Forte is a creative director, writer, and filmmaker who currently sits on the BESSIE Selection Committee. Daniel Diaz is a Black Puerto Rican gay performance artist and writer who creates works from a queer Black male perspective to inform audiences on social political injustices. Philip Trevino is a Latinx LGBTQ artist and curator who has toured nationally and internationally at venues including BAM, The Kitchen, Jacob's Pillow, and elsewhere. Hillary Brown-Istrefi is currently the Director of Development and lead curator of Crossroads and Outfront Festival. In 2013, she co-founded the experimental performance collective Same as Sister. Joey Kipp is a queer Afro-Latinx Brazilian Brooklyn-based artist. Joey has collaborated with numerous respected artists and was featured in the New York Times online project Speaking in Dance. Originally from Argentina, Annabella Lensu is a dancer, choreographer, writer, and teacher with over 30 years of experience working internationally and nationally, and is currently on the BESSIE Selection Committee. Augusto Machado is an artist, activist, and witness best known for his work with Ellen Stewart's La Mama. Joe Wiegand is a creative director, producer, and stage manager. They've been involved with productions and projects at Brick Arts Media, Atlantic Acting School, Dixon Place, and more. And our host today is community builder and Rail Editor-at-Large Reverend Donna Schaper, who served as a senior minister of Judson Memorial Church from 2006 to 2021. We are so lucky and grateful and excited for this conversation today. And it's with great pleasure that I pass over to you, Donna.
Well, hello, everybody. What a great day this is. We're at a festival that celebrates art in our great city. And I've got my first question has to do with how did you ever come up with such a wonderful name? Pioneers Go East. Who's going to take that one? I know you're a group.
I will take that. Gian Marco Riccardo here. Thank you.
Thank
you so much. So the name came after reading a poem by Walt Whitman, O Pioneers, reflecting on the possibilities of humans, how they can interconnect and create their own space. The idea of being a gay immigrant who I've had to find myself, to move away from a place where I didn't feel protected as a child and as a teenager, and coming to New York City to be able to create a space that felt I belonged to, a space that I really felt I could participate in the growth of other artists, BIPOC, immigrant artists, queer artists, and feminist artists, be able to create this safe space all together in a way that helps us and supports us. Additionally, if you think about the idea of pioneer go east, pioneering, going to a new place, the idea of undertow and a current, that it's something that is beneath the surface, something that is a force that is in opposition to what is apparent. So the idea of us not being mainstream, but being really connecting to the community that we belong to, which is a social community, a community of artists, and now we make those connections.
So
that's
let's just pause a minute and hear what you said. So many people think that New York is a dangerous place, a scary place, a place where you better keep your wallet close to your pocket. And you just said you came here to make a safe place.
Yeah.
And that's just so good. And also, I mean, you have to watch out for me because I really am a spiritual person at heart. Finding what's below the surface is also just a wonderful approach to art. And also, it reminds us every second of what we don't know. And I just appreciate the name so much. Anybody else want to comment on the name?
Hi, it's Daniel Diaz here. Thank you for having me, for having us. I kind of wanted to piggyback on the safe space comment, as I think it's extremely important to continue to have safe spaces and activate safety for artists and people just looking for community. And I know you had mentioned like New York kind of having this reputation of being rough and tough. And it's funny that all of my time here, I also came here to build community, to find safety from the rest of the world, really. New York is a wonderful place where you can be inspired just by walking down a different street. You have possibility to change your life by who you say hello to and the decisions you make day to day, the trains you skip onto. Something as simple as that is to who you're sharing creative space with. So it's been, I think the name is extremely fitting and suiting, in what it's garnered is this community of artists that are unafraid to protect each other and stand for and by each other's causes. We are also a community of activists, you know, and to be able to align and get on the same page is quite special. So for audience or anyone absorbing our work, that's very important that is communicated.
Yeah. Anybody else on the name? So you're out front too. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, go.
Hi, Joey, he, him,
Joey.
his.
Yes.
And I also think of the word diaspora and kind of what Gian Marco and Daniel were saying, like coming to New York from different cultures. I'm also an immigrant, and just this idea of like we are bringing our cultures to make art together, and that's what New York is. It's a cultural melting pot, and for us to all collaborate to then build a new culture and new diaspora for the future that we want to see through the arts.
Yes. Well, your work is all about movement, and it's moving, and it kind of contradicts some of the safety notion. Because when you say you're going to be out front, it's a little dangerous out there, probably. Not everybody likes to be out front. I mean, I have a big beef with the world that when people say goodbye to each other now, we say, be safe. And I want to say, go have an adventure, or the old-fashioned take care. So I think that the dangers and the safeties are richly linked. For us. But I love the word pioneers, so thank you for that. So I'm wondering if we could just see one of the first clips just to get the work out front and then go back to conversation. I think that would be good.
Great. Well, one of our first clips is from our film Finding Sound. It's inspired by provoking literary icon James Baldwin's Artist Manifesto. This clip features Joey Kipp, dancer, who's on with us now. It's really about our role as artists on a journey towards a queer future, and our everyday struggles and how it affects our creative paths.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. So much color, so much motion, so much skin. How do you like seeing yourself, Joey?
Sorry, repeat that, please.
How was it for you to see yourself there?
I have a very challenging time watching myself perform, but
Okay,
so
fair enough.
I'm not going to comment on that much further. But I mean, I always think like, oh, I could have done this, and anyways, not going to go into that. But I think for this specific section, I mean, I think the piece, I was very much inspired by like the Dick Cavett show and like James Baldwin's famous interview with Paul Goldstein, and kind of this idea of me navigating the world as a Black BIPOC artist, queer, and people continuously trying to box me in or like identify me as how they want to see me, and explain to me my own identity. And so I was really interested in kind of taking a specific interview and having someone who did not really understand or was trying to understand, but then still like explaining to James Baldwin what their ideology was and what their work was, and completely missing all of the points of it. And in this particular clip, I was definitely interested in kind of the idea of like James Baldwin as this rock star, and kind of like how the text and kind of being at the microphone and being interviewed and kind of being at battle with people continuously misunderstanding James Baldwin and the work, and even James Baldwin being Black, and like people in the Black community like not understanding Jimmy's experience and the rage and anger, but then the constant confrontation of having to navigate all those different interactions of judgment or I guess adversity, I guess I should say.
Yeah, a constant navigation of the self, to the self and then to the world. Who is trying to speak?
There's something about trying to push boundaries, which is important, like the same title of Up Front, the same idea of pioneering ideas and where we are. And I just want to share, I came to New York City thanks to Ellen Stewart, La Mama, the founding director of La Mama Theater. I was in my late 20s, but she invited me to stay in the dormitory at La Mama for 2 years. She allowed me to grow. She allowed me to find myself, find my queerness. And she would always say, if you went to her bedroom on the fourth floor of the 7040 Sports Street building where she lived above the theater, she would always tell you, baby, you can be yourself between 1st Street and 14th Street. Beyond that, it gets a bit trickier. We are seeing that the boundaries of queerness, the boundaries of who we are, the boundaries of advocacy, and how we can be and stand up for ourselves and share expanded. And so the idea up front, the idea of really going to the liminal, right, to the space that it's about us pushing. And I think we can push with a soft touch, but we should continuously be alert about that and continuously move forward and push and be present. And so to me, the beautiful performance choreography that Joey Kip created for that film expresses a lot of that. The sense of joy, the sense of pain, the sense of I'm pushing, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm moving forward.
And it's me and it's mine. I mean, I'm very interested in how many saints have been evoked. Your experience living downtown, being welcomed. James Baldwin, obviously a saint in so many ways. Walt Whitman, all of them were marking downtown too. It's the zeitgeist. And I heard yesterday, not to go overly literary, but I heard yesterday that Flannery O'Connor, who is one of my writer saints, refused to meet with James Baldwin. He wanted to meet her because he respected her work, and she decided that it wouldn't be appropriate for her as a Georgian to be seen with him. So it happened. So all of that navigation of the self sometimes is painful, and thinking that you can only be downtown and not go above 14th Street. What does that do to a person's spirit? Right? How does that function? So how did you all find each other? Was it one step at a time? Yes, please.
The stars aligns and
The star line.
Really? There's so many
Yeah.
collectives would say that. Annabella, what were you going to say?
This is Daniel Diaz again.
Yeah.
Gian Marco and I met years ago, maybe 8 years ago or so, where we both worked on a project where I was a performer, he was a director, with another performance artist downtown. And we connected, and it asked me to be a part of a project he was doing afterward. And we've worked together, and our relationship has kind of grown and blossomed from there.
Mhm. Oh. Yes, please, Annabella.
Well, I resonate so much with, Gian Marco means, I was also feeling, I'm part, my work is dance theater. The presenter for theater, they say, you're too much dance. And the presenter for dance, you're too much theater. And there I am, presented my work at La Mama and Nikki Paraiso, many years I convinced him, hey, this is my work. And then Gian Marco was there, and we talk and we click. And since 2018, we've been collaborating, and, and I feel part of Pioneers because they embrace me like a family. Again, my point of view about being a feminist artist to being South American artist sometimes doesn't coincide, with the idea, the mentality, the American mentality of what is performance. But I find my place with Pioneers. And so I'm eternal thanks for that.
So are you really just too much?
Well, many people say that I'm too much. I'm an educator. I receive a very important award as an innovative educator for the New York State Council of Education for Dance and NDO. And again, when Gian Marco talked about pushing the boundaries and pushing the next generations, about thinking how the voices, for me, is about finding the identity. And myself too in New York City, I could be who I am. In Argentina, where the restriction is, oh, you do ballet or you do tango, I didn't find my space. It was New York that embraced me. But also within New York, there are so many different communities. Even sometimes in the dance community, I feel foreign. Yes. And so it takes, the courage to create a new space where everything is allowed, because for us, art is about experimentation. And again, pushing the boundaries, the definition, why I cannot include video, why I cannot do that. So I find out very, very interesting. This is 17 years that I'm in New York, that is still, the mentality of the modernism still on. I'm like, well, I'm not modern, I'm not postmodern, I am who I am.
Right.
A mix of all different worlds.
I know people can't even remember what modern and postmodern is, but it's certainly not ballet or tango, huh?
Yes.
It's a mestizo. It's a mixture. It's a blend, and you put things together that other people want to keep apart. So it's exciting.
I think to Philip's point about fate, though, I do want to lend that some credence because we are here creating joyful, queer, and feminist art. And when you're doing that for your community, in your community, you're going to draw the people that are interested in creating and witnessing that art. So it is a community, it is something that we've worked to build. And so it is a natural sort of sense of fate that we find each other as joyful queer artists.
Yes, yes. So in a way, you find each other by a common point of view, as it were. And then you help each other do what Walt Whitman would call I am multitudes, and put them together.
I think also, you know, it's part of the reason going even, you know, back to why we came to New York, you know, as it's almost like the Jimmy Somerville song of Small Town Boy. You're like, I'm gonna run away and go to New York and find my people and you know, and make those connections. So that way you can be able to thrive and survive in, you know, in this world. And of course, the world, luckily, you know, the world is also changing. We're, you know, with social media, with you know, people that are very active in the digital world, it's getting out to other towns. And I see such a shift in the most recent generations of how people relate to queerness, how they relate to the other, to BIPOC, to you know, everybody. It's shifted a lot because of the visibility. I mean, you know, on television, I would have never have guessed that I would be watching two lesbians kiss with their kids in front of them in a commercial, right? You know, and that shift, that visibility, even with the commodity of commercialism and all that, you know, aside, just seeing that visibility is such a big shift in the way that people relate to work. And so for us to be able to create digital works and to kind of push that out into the work, so that way there is visibility and excitement about that is really is a great way for us to work in the live and the digital.
And the whole representation of when you say about two people kissing, it's really the acceleration of change will not happen without that kind of representation. You know, you got to see it. You can't just, but as we know, it creates a lot of backlash. I mean, out front has people pulling for back. I loved the state of Vermont had a slogan when same-sex marriage was about to happen. And it said, keep Vermont back, or save Vermont from the future. And then somebody else said, pull Vermont forward. And it's that those motions are really important.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that.
Yes, please.
I think also for me, because the work that we do is based so much on an exchange, experimenting with ideas, that I feel there's such a safe space for me to really explore and express my queerness through also my Black identity and all my other ethnicities, and really be held within the space while experiencing that and saying speaking my sexuality and speaking about sex and speaking about all of these things in a way that, yes, I do love doing narratives, but in a way that doesn't have to be expressed through a narrative, that can solely be expressed through an exchange of the body and words and ideas and exploration and failure. And I think that is what's so exciting about pioneers for me, and the people that come in and support that.
Mhm. Nice. Nice. Well, that's what a pioneer is. Are any of you native New Yorkers, or did you all move here?
All moved, all immigrants.
All
All.
moved.
Oh, that's so interesting. And here we are on the Brooklyn Rail, you know?
Mhm.
Interesting. That was my experience at Judson. I was one of the very few native New Yorkers in the congregation. Almost all of us were refugees, mostly from places like Kansas and Alabama and other places which are called the Christian Bible Belt. So.
Yeah.
Well, Donna, I just wanted to sort of give my sort of entry into Pioneers. I also started as a collaborating artist. I can't remember maybe the exact moment. I think I was maybe at Judson Church witnessing one of their creations or one of their curated series. And I just gravitated towards this community as one that presents interdisciplinary and experimental work, which is what I do with my collective Same as Sister. And then through those opportunities, I bonded with Gian Marco and Philip and some of the other collective artists. And they also found out about my sort of secondary, but I also like to say equivalent job in arts administration as a grant writer and as a development manager. And so I also feel like Pioneers has been a space and community where I've gotten to sort of expand and explore my creative side, but also my administrative side. And as an emerging development person as well as curator, it's very hard to find those opportunities. So I'm very grateful to kind of exist as a hybrid person in a hybrid community and supported by Pioneers.
Right, right. Well, whenever we talk about linking the body and the soul, I always tell people that administration is an art. It is really an art. And I've always often joked also that it is, it's the art of getting other people to do things you don't want to do and making them think it's fun.
That is very true. And also I think it feels incredibly enriching for me to be able to sort of find the resources, find the funding support to be able to allow our cohort, our community of artists to create the work that they want to represent. That to me is like such a joy. That's why it doesn't feel like work. It is fun for me to do.
And if I can say, I'm just a big fan of all the artists are part of the collective. I'm essentially their fan, and I always cheer them. And Annabella is a beautiful solo artist, interdisciplinary artist, filmmaker, dance maker. Hillary Brown-Istrefi is an amazing, incredible interdisciplinary artist, conceptual artist, dance maker. Daniel Diaz is a beautiful solo artist I've seen in other works. Joy Kip and Philip and I met Joy Kip, and we love Joy's work. And on what was it, on roller skates? We saw you perform on roller skates and say, we get to have you in our project. And everyone else as well. And it's a large community, but essentially, how do we connect? It's about admiring people's work, knowing them, meeting them, really finding those human connections, and really trying to engage and say, well, we're here together. What can we do now? You know, where are we going next? For Joe or Wiggins, who's the newest addition, they just graduated, and we thought the works that we present or create speak so much to our community, and we thought that Joe, as a young emerging artist, director, and as well admin, would thrive in our community. And so that's why we're here.
And I am so grateful for being folded into this community. Like Gian Marco said, I graduated a year ago and was pretty much immediately scooped up into these like just very welcoming arms of Pioneers Go East Collective. And I just feel so grateful to have this community.
Nice, nice. And you're not too young for it, right?
No one will state their age, right?
Oh,
But
forgive me for prying, but
but I think that it's also really important for us, for Pioneers Go East, to be intergenerational, in that we work with fabulous artists like Augusto Machado, the legend that Augusto is, and other downtown artists, other established artists, and that connectivity between younger artists as well, and developing that through line of history, and having a dialogue and a conversation, that expands the art making, expands the pushing boundaries and being out front, and that really does is important for us as well, because many of us that have been in New York City for a long time do know the native New Yorkers and the people that have been here for lifetimes, and also it's important to sing out their histories and the important steps that they have taken to allow us to be who we are in our space, and then to also have that. So it's a really important part of what we do as well.
I remember the night Yvonne Rayner came to volunteer at the soup kitchen at Judson Arts Wednesdays, which was well, all about it, but it was just so moving to have her in the space in another role after all that she had done. So what do you think is happening in dance? We've kind of glossed over modern to postmodern, tango to ballet. I mean, we know that something digital is happening to everything. Here we are on a Zoom call, in another time we would have been in a room together, with chairs and coffee and bathrooms and, all the things that places have. What do you think is happening to dance?
I mean, I can give some insight from a personal lens into that as someone that identifies as an interdisciplinary artist and choreographer, maker. I feel that definitely digital practices and virtuality are being embraced by the dance world, but I think we're also returning to a time where in-person live connections are really important. So it's kind of trying to find a meeting, again, using the word hybrid or intersectional way of bringing those two worlds together, and then the axis and the sort of vantage points that kind of can open up in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, all of our worlds are dealing with that. Certainly the world of religion. Do you gather a congregation, or do you go hybrid, or do you do both? And how do you do both? Offices, you really need an office. Well, what kind of office do you need? I mean, it feels like malls. Do you really need shopping centers when you can order from Amazon and have your whole house littered with paper boxes? It's yes, Annabelle, please.
So for me, something natural that I'm surrounded by technology. It's years since I moved here. I Skype with my family in Argentina and Italy, all over, that these screens, my kids, I have 2 kids, grow up with screens. So for me, it's a natural thing, incorporate technology into my performance. I mean, live streaming, dance film. And I think that's happened with the generation, to have another visual, because I teach dance composition, this dealing with that Hilary was talking about, the 3D composition versus the 2D composition. I feel that now we're talking a different language that, require us to experiment more. For example, for me, it was a boom during this pandemic. I was in my apartment in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. My husband is a photographer and filmmaker, and we make 9 films in our apartment. in our apartment. And I continue doing this because I feel that it was my only way to escape. As a choreographer, I couldn't be live. And so with my students, you know, I teach at NYU, I talk a lot about that. It's the medium of communication. The most important for me is what you want to communicate. And the media and the accessibility is there because we have phones, because we have cameras. So for me, the most important is, like you say, Donna, is like why we are here live. Where is our community? What is our message? And then the media is there. And more, this accessibility, you know, allowed us to communicate more. And like Philip say, our audiences expands. I remember when we was doing the first workshop that I was teaching about body mapping with pioneers, we had people from all over the world looking at the workshop that pioneers offer. And so the community expand not just to New York City, it was in Europe, in different parts of the United States, Central America, South America. So technology is bridging us to our message to go far and wider. But some, you know, what I see, you know, like the younger generation, sometimes we get distracted about the sweets. Oh, we like the application, we like the thing, but the thing is, what are you communicating? And so that's the essence, to understand why you do art and like really ask yourself. And when Hillary talked about this, like we come back to life, for me, it was a big thing when Gian Marco said, okay, what are you going to present? And I'm like, well, I'm in the hybrid world of film and live. And I'm like, but no, we are in the LGBT center. It's an amazing place. I want to dance. I want to be live. I want to be sweat. I want that they see my armpit. I want that they see my skin, my wrinkles, my hair that is getting gray. But at the same time, I was like, I'm in these in between stages. And I feel that all of us from the pandemic, we are in this between, you know, like Joe is like, I want to see Joe dancing. I saw the video. I love the video, but I want to see him dance. When Joey dances, it's amazing, you know, and you feel the vibrations there. So we are in this in between, and I feel that we will continue working in this between for a long time.
Yeah. And I don't know how you all read the news this week, but it was clear to me that the robots were coming on strong. That every time I looked at a show, it was about more artificial intelligence or how a bot was going to teach the course I used to be teaching. And I think that there's just a whole new world opening up because of this. Who handles the kind of digital experience for you all? Or do you all do it yourselves?
We all do it. We, you know, we plan a lot. We work with different videographers.
Yeah, so that's what I meant.
And Adele Overberg. And then we worked in the past with Kathleen Kelly. We worked in the past with Azmi Mert Erdem and many others. I know that Hillary works with a lot of videographers as well for the work that Hillary presents.
Yes.
I just want to share something about this being in between that we are talking about in digital and in person, but a little bit going back to the idea of dance or performance and where it is at now, or where we are feeling it's centering in our community. And I think that there's something riveting and beautiful about seeing process unfolding on stage instead of thinking about accomplishing or the final product. Something exciting to see people sharing space, artists on stage sharing space together, connecting with each other, acknowledging each other, and discussing what is the composition of the work, what is the dance, what is the performance, what is the media, and how that interconnects in a very almost spiritual way, I would say. That is, you know, I'm acknowledging you. Let's do this now. Let's be in conversation. Maybe we're going to make a change in front of an audience. So the idea of really witnessing something anew every time, I think it's something that we see happening more and more in performance and in dance in general. And I think that's really where our conversations are. And I want to just share something about, we love and thrive working with artists and we see so much that the artists that resonate with our community are artists that are deeply engaged with their art, and they're not thinking about career paths. They're not thinking about social media, fulfillment, but really thinking about being in the present and sharing in the present moment. And those are artists that we really want to work with and continue working with. And this festival has had several of them being just outstanding. And so I really want to be grateful to all of them.
Well, and it's obvious that you are a collective, so that your form and function connect. So you're doing something together. There is no singularity to the artist, even though, of course, the image of an artist is someone who's all by themselves on a stage, or all by themselves at a desk, or there's a solo artist, and I don't want to denigrate that, but you're fundamentally a collective here, and so that really says something. I think this would be a great time to have the next clip, which includes a comment about applause. And I think, Gian Marco, I would like people to look for that comment, because you just said it, that there's a reason you're doing it, doing what you do, that has a collective spiritual purpose as well as an artistic purpose. So let's cue up the next clip.
And should I introduce, or?
Please do.
So
Yeah.
yes, so this next clip is Art Like Love. And it's a video art film that we created, one of the first kind of mid coming out of pandemic. We really investigated what it is to make art, and what it is to be us inside our art, and really just kind of have fun as well. You'll see it has some fun, funky design elements and some special effects. And it was filmed at La Mama and the Exponential Festival. And the filmmaker, the co-director and filmmaker was Kathleen Kelly, Gian Marco Riccardo. Also, it stars Augusto Machado and Daniel Diaz, Bree Breeden, and Beth Graysick. And then includes also some production from Janessa Clark. And I think that
You're the designer.
And then myself as well. I did some design. Yes, so enjoy.
Thank you.
DIY, the downtown avant-garde, madness, the camp, the bizarre, messy desire with a sense of humor. What is your desire? To be known, to be successful. Be careful what you wish, because you may regret it. You did it for the applause instead of the actual experience of creating. You went out for the return? Now, what if you realize there's nothing you can do to be a better artist? Nothing. What a relief, isn't it? You can simply be happy being yourself. What if you realize that the process of creating is what you are? Then you have time to be, time to breathe. It sounds too simple. Don't try to control your thoughts. Just watch. Watch what happens. The things you do are just happening. The things you do are just happening.
That is so much fun. It's so it kind of feels like it's an anti-applause, pro spiritual approach to the act of making itself. And and we were talking about how the world of dance and movement is constantly undergoing change and trying to make the change. But I think this notion of whether you're doing it for yourself or for the applause is a constant theme for any performer, right? And that relationship with the audience. and getting free of the audience, free enough of the audience to do your thing, but also respecting the audience and their interaction with the thing you're doing.
I also think that there's something about like allowing a breath between you and the audience and remembering that you're doing it for yourself so that you can be most vulnerable to represent someone else.
Yeah. No, when I was a baby clergy person 50 years ago now, my mentor told me I should keep my resignation in my pocket. And I said, well, women don't have pockets, but anyway, I was obviously a pioneer, but I knew exactly what he meant, that you don't let the audience tell you what to do.
I think Joy has something he wants to say. He raised his hand.
This is just a little fun fact that actually we showed that clip during Lucky Star at Judson Memorial Church. And we were deciding if we wanted to include bows at the end. And I was like, you can't use bows for this piece. It just doesn't make sense. And then we ended up using bows, and it was really beautiful because people, some of it was their first time seeing theater and performance live in person. And so it had this really emotional, really full sense of gratitude, not only of the audience, but us really feeling grateful to be in a space with an audience and celebrating that. So I just thought that was kind of a funny and fun fact.
and aren't all bows meant to be that, and so what made you think you shouldn't bow, that it would be contradicting the message?
I just felt the tone of it was allowing for us to just move forward in the ether, move forward in this sort of space that we had created, this sort of new space, because the piece was kind of also addressing like being on another planet. And I felt like there was something about that felt like, okay, we're just like traversing and like moving through onto the next. But it did feel really beautiful and was a great reminder of like, oh yeah, this is about an exchange. And this is just as much, this is a gift, you know, to be able to share something with people live and feel that.
Well, and it's organic. It was organic to the moment in time, post-COVID. It was, I mean, audiences, when we like a play, we love to encourage the curtain to know it, and then to get to the standing ovation. You know, there's a whole organic nature to that applause. But, you know, sometimes when you don't like a show and everybody else is standing up, it can be really embarrassing to stay seated. You know, that just gets on my stuff, right? So.
But Donna, this is just here in America. In Europe, we stand up and we boo and we throw things on the people and we reply things. You know, that's what we do in South America. If you don't like the thing, you stand up and go. American, very polite. But, you know, thinking about the bows and unbows, and I saw there in the chat the idea of Peter Brook, thinking about that this pandemic bring us all in a place of try to define what is the difference between ritual and performance. And like Daniel say, something private. And the idea also of private and public. Yes. Are we not doing everything like that, like social media? Are we making our privacy public? And so as artists, I feel that that's also my journey to try to define where I am, what is the pendulum go? If this is a ritual for myself, a ritual for everybody else, this is a performance for me, it's for everybody else. And sharing this vulnerability, what it means to do something that is very private, very intimate for you, make it public. And how you do that require courage, but like again, like Daniel say, require a very like supportive environment. And I feel with pioneers, and especially this festival, please people come to see all the artists, you feel protected. You feel that you can be yourself, but not in all the places. I will not do my performance in the middle of Union Square. I will not have the courage to do this ritual performance. It's also take this place and this community that create this magical circle that embrace you. And then you can do the exchange, and then you can be pushing the boundaries, and then you can be ferocious. But you have to have this magical circle that embrace you, that support you, that you know that they have you there.
Yeah, agreed upon norms creates ferocity and busts up these binaries that, I mean, let's go back to the word queer. I mean, I think one of the best things the word queer has done for the vocabulary of all people is to say, why did you separate that? Why did you separate the artist's personal integrity from the performance, from the applause? Isn't it really good when I do something totally freely that you freely like? And that it's not polite. It's when we convene the work and the ritual of the performance and the performance itself. And performance always has a bad name, right? Oh, that was just a performance. You're being performative. That means somehow you're faking something. But when you add an artistic motion to the performance, people know when it's true and when it's not.
And I also wanted to add that that it's very much that connectivity in real life performance that brings that human nature that we all thrive to see and experience live, that connectivity that can only happen live, and that we are in that way, you know, beyond performance, that really honestly what we're doing is storytelling, telling our own truths, telling the truths of others, and honestly sharing our stories, you know, across the limelight into the audience, but making that connectivity. One of the performers said, you know, like, you know, a lot of times in the festival, the audience is just right there immediately, and they're like, you breathe me and I breathe you, and we're here together and we're experiencing this together, and remembering that in that storytelling you're having that connectivity immediately with the audience members. And so that artistry and that storytelling just goes very deep in the way that us as humans need to have that connection with each other in a way. So the state of dance is that you know, it'll always be there in live, because it goes way back to the way that we connect to each other, and the way that we ritualize, and the way that we story tell and tell our truths. So I think that's really a strong connection.
Absolutely. People will dance whether they perform or not. Ancient roots. So listen, we have some questions in the chat, and I'm wondering, Eleanor, I'm not getting all of them, I don't think. Would you mind asking some of them? Or do you want to curate them a little bit?
One more clip also, if we wanted to show that first.
Why don't we, just because of the time, let's show one more clip. The clips are so wonderful. Let's do it, and then we'll go to the questions in the chat.
And these are clips of the festival that we're curating out front fest. So they're just short clips of the artists that we're presenting. Yeah.
Yeah, so the next video clip is a montage, a compilation of the curated festival artists who are being presented live, but some of them are also teaching artists, because we offered free participatory workshops. So it's kind of a full spectrum of what has been offered across the festival.
Well, thank you so much. I hadn't noticed that you have a horse in your logo. So I guess that's part of the pioneering. Okay. So let's get some questions. And I know some of you have to go, but Eleanor will lead us through the questions. And if you can stay, please do.
Thank you so much to all of you. And thank you, Donna. These clips were also incredible. I'm so glad we got to watch them. We do have a few questions from the audience. And our first question will be from our friend Juki. So you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. Am I there? No? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. A question actually was put in before, but it also relates very much to what Annabella was touching on. And it is, in creating a space or spaces, do you begin with a circle, either physically or metaphorically or both? Because it seems to be how everyone and everything can be seen and allowing expression, reflection, and offering. Is there anything to this?
Yeah, I can just share that when we are creating a platform, curatorial platform, a sharing of artists at Judson Church, which is one of our most really cherished spaces where we work and present works. We try to create the audience is actually in a semicircle, almost 3/4, to allow that really connection. We do keep a little bit of that proscenium, so that allows the performers to be able to go to the altar, and for video projection on the altar, we need to be mindful about architectural definitions, but definitely there's something about that semicircle that feels all about connecting and being present together. And I feel for the people, the audiences and the performers and the artists, all to be able to feel they are connecting in some form. So that shape allows us for that. Again, this is the most basic idea and response to what you're saying. So there's a sense about creating always spaces that feel circular, even if they're not physically like that. We've experienced a lot of this during the artist practices in this festival. I'm just thinking about Jasmine Hearn's project that's closing tonight. Of course, Annabella's Lenzu's project that's closing tonight as well. But the idea of the audience connecting to the performance and to the artists on stage, and to make that very much a safe space in which there can be a lot of fluidity and openness.
And replying to that question too, I feel that something that unites us all is this, like the pushing boundary, the fourth wall that divide us with the audience. It's much more like a democratic dialogue. Like many of us, like Philip say, is about storytelling. And we look at the audience on their face, on the eyes, and we ask the questions, removing that, even if we have a makeup, even if we have this persona, but we are going into this second circle, what I call, of relationship. And I feel that that's a constant in the Pioneers' work as a collective, as well as all the curatorial, that these artists are striving for this honest conversation with the audience. And that's what we try to do, from human to human, and without having any different high. Sometimes that's what happened. They put us in a position that we are like, oh, we have some kind of knowledge different than the audience. But that's not happening. We are in New York City. All our audiences, the majority, are another artists. So our dialogue is democratic and exchange. Thank you, everybody. I have to leave to do my duties as a mother now. See you tonight, everybody at LGBT.
Bye.
Married tonight.
Thank you so much, Annabella. Thank you, GE. That was a really great question. Our next question will be from Chloe.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that amazing conversation, which was so inspiring and generous. I do have a question. My question is, I know that Pioneers Go East Collective has been in residence at several different institutions, and I wonder what the process of being in residence is like for you as a collective, and how you respond to those unique organizational histories as well as places.
Yeah, it's been a gift to be able to have space to create in residence with several organizations, because, as you know, in New York City, space is a commodity that's very hard to come by, especially for people that need space to move and to create and to expand and not just be in our small apartments trying to create things in a small space. So it's a really important and supportive element to creating and making work, and we really I think there's been a larger shift in the community in trying to provide more space for artists, especially you know, that support. It's really needed for artists to be able to strive and create and be able to succeed in their art making. And so for us, those residencies are ways that we can explore and create. Of course, we all have active imaginations and dream big and have, like, you know, work things out in our heads, but to actually physically get into a space and shape it and work with the space and be there is just where the magic happens. So yeah, it's what we do.
I think it's also, oh, sorry.
No.
I think it's also important where I'm like, I have a place where I can microwave my food.
Oh, that's
so important for being in residency.
Yeah, I would also add on to that. I think residencies, particularly for maybe more sort of city-based artists, are crucial because we have such limited space, like rehearsal spaces, to have the process of research and development. And they are very competitive, particularly in cities like New York. So just having that designated time and space to just question, not even to have this like defined product at the end, and then adding on to what Joey said too, a space that has certain commodities that you take for granted on an everyday. It's a real comfort as a maker and as a collaborator.
And I can just add a little bit. We've been fortunate and lucky to have had many wonderful residencies with different models. La Mama, of course, Brick Arts Media, Center for Performance Research, and many more. And we actually have another residency coming up in a wonderful space, larger venue, and coming up. We'll share more about it once the announcement is done in February. But there's something about carving out space in a community-driven space, such as Judson Church and such as the LGBT Center. There's something about us bringing the arts and our messages and our community and our artists to spaces that are less, that then don't always present arts, right? Judson Church does present art, the LGBT Center a lot less, but this idea of us being able to really look around and see how can we really connect with a larger community. All our projects are free, right? They're donation only, but they're free and accessible to everyone. So the idea for us to be a Judson Church or LGBT Center is important for us because it does really embolden us. It really champions who we are, our artists, and allows for people that are, you know, come to the LGBT Center or Judson Church to know about this art that may not be going so much to art venues. So there's something about us really being able to look at art venues, cultural centers, but as well as community-driven spaces as well. And I think we're proud about that we're able to really straddle both these worlds.
And also that we're not just, you know, in the East Village as even though we have our central kind of location of where we've grown from, and you know, the village and East Village and downtown, that we're also working with artists throughout all the boroughs and bringing them to spaces in the boroughs as well. So because that, you know, we're all New Yorkers, so we all need to, yeah, we all deserve that, to have those spaces and create and bring other voices from entirety of New York. So
yeah, I also feel that these partnerships, particularly this one with the LGBT Center for the festival, it really represents the intersectionality of our communities and the intersectionality of our lineages as artists and as activists. So I just wanted to add that on to what was being said.
Thank you so much to all of you for those amazing answers. And thank you again for the conversation today.
Thank you, Chloe. That was a great question. I have one last question I'd love to ask you all. It's kind of building off of Chloe's question. I'm curious about the collectives, collaborations or interactions with other dance groups in New York or outside of New York. Yeah, if you have anything to add on that.
Do you want to talk about cultural practice? I can start.
Yeah, sorry, Eleanor, did you mean in the sense of how we bring artists in to curate, to present their work? Or did you mean more specifically to the arts collective of how like Gian Marco and Philip collaborate with other choreographers and makers?
The first one.
The first one? Yeah, so I can speak to my experience. I started, before I officially joined Pioneers Go East as an administrator, I was invited as a guest curator, and I was given pretty much open rein to select a group of artists that were representative of things that I was interested in allowing an audience to share in, and also that had some sort of thread or connection to what Pioneers' mission is of providing a space for intersectional voices and communities, particularly of LGBTQ+ and BIPOC artists. And so being given that space, I also decided to just to have as diverse a group, a cohort of artists as possible. The thread for me was they were all working in a very collaborative and interdisciplinary way, but they were creating vastly different work. And I think that creates a lot of interesting conversations and questioning, and them sharing even like a space for technical rehearsals, but then also afterwards, we usually have some sort of discourse, be that a Q&A, like a sort of secondary presentation to share more sort of behind the scenes information or workshops. So to me, it's really important to have really a space for all voices and aesthetics, concepts, because I think we still can get very boxed in, even if we think we're presenting experimental performance work. And I don't know if Gian Marco or Philip or Joe, anyone wants to add on to that.
It was beautifully stated.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a way for us to really connect to artists and friends and collaborators and people that we admire. And I want to just to go to a part of the point that Hillary said, something about finding common ground or queer aesthetic common threads that allows us all to be really interconnected. So we work in a very welcoming and open environment and space, so that people can talk to us, email us, reach out to us, meet us at one of our events, and we'll meet with them, etc., so that we can start this conversation to amplify their work, their voice, as part of our creative platform or curatorial platform. The exciting thing I think that we are recognizing is that some of these wonderful artists have done that we presented or curated or shared work we were able to collaborate with them, and sometimes we see them come back. So I'm sorry, we see them come back, but sometimes we see their work and then we'll collaborate with them again. So we have, I would say, 3 to 5 years relationship with, I would say, 60, 70 choreographer, filmmakers, performance artists, solo artists, ensembles, and we continue to expand. So
yeah, there's definitely a sustainability focus there. I think, for instance, we have another performance series called Crossroads, which is a little bit sort of more like a sort of low tech opportunity for artists to share works in progress, new ideas, and it's excerpted. Whereas with the Outfront format, they're able to present full evening extended works. And a lot of the artists that we engage with through Crossroads or through our educational initiative Next workshop series, we have opportunities to allow them to present maybe even an idea that they sort of initiated through Crossroads. And so that feels really important for us to sort of continue ushering in these new voices and representations in our field, in our community.
Thank you so much. So exciting to hear about. Thank you so much again to all of you for this amazing conversation. And thank you to Donna, who had to run out, but we're so grateful for her questions. We do have a tradition here at the Rail of closing our community events with a poetry reading. And I'm thrilled to welcome our Poet Laureate of the Day, Reed Rushes, to the stage. Reed Rushes is a performance artist living and working in Queens. Their performances are committed to the subconscious, using choreography, sound, video, and installation to explore folklore and myth combined with autobiography. Reed Rushes has been commissioned by the Yard Theatre London and Spill Festival National Platform. They hold an MFA from Bard College, and in 2021, they were a teaching fellow at Bard College in Palestine. Thank you so much for being here, Reed. I'm so excited to pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for that conversation. It was really amazing to hear more about your work and all the cool performance work you're doing. Yeah, I have 2 poems that I want to read to you, so I guess I'll just get started. The first one is called For Summer. Types of holding, cupped hands. Oh, before I start, I just want to check if everyone can hear me. Great, okay. Yeah, types of holding, cupped hands, a sling for an arm, a sling for a baby, a sack, a bag suspended in air, a hug, standing still, grip onto with hands, with a gaze lifted, with breath, over time a note, discordant harmonic. I am certain in your hands and your hands and your hands grip. I opened not as one boy, but as many somewheres, crossed over, folded into my lover, folded into an indeterminate list, folded into a friend, safe to uncover dark blue together. They pick up the phone and they know. They care if I turn into floorboard or tarmac or drywall. The jello is thick here, I tell them, describing my surroundings so as not to disappear into them. This time I hope not even slightly. But here, as in many somewheres here, it is tasting magenta on silver, like our tongues are on the latch. My palm is sturdy on your rib cage, the other on your back. You breathe all the strands of somewhere into blue and baby fizzy. Running feet and kisses brush blushing knots through partially opened fingers, while cupped hands carry water to your mouth, then to mine, then to theirs and theirs and theirs, slipping lip edges in passing. A motorbike rumbles in the distance. We bind it to secure it with care. One string, one ribbon, one bandage at a time. 2 beers, 12 hands, beach sand in orange skin straps loose on the rocks. Dogs wrap around 6 thighs that lay down to laugh under brown sheets. A chest breathes beneath, curling air round fingertips. Unpeeled, said out loud, you heard me. There for them, slipped into you for me. Picked up again and swung over the shoulder of my knapsack, full of mush bananas. I got you, and you me, and me you, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm gonna read a second poem called For Now. A hand reached in deep, stopped in the center and quivered. A hand reached out into the deep and got stuck fast, it quivers. The colors are autumnal, the colors are orange, the colors are bright yellow, the kind of yellow that rims the outside of a flame, the kind of yellow that stands out like a New York taxi, the kind of yellow that makes leaves in a breeze look like pennies catching in sunlight from the corner of your eye, but deeper, from an eye corner, but warmer. Muddy marshes mix with the insides of a family home torn up and turned out by the wind. A space heater collides with a tree branch. An alarm clock struck 3 times on River Rock. Someone is going to bash their head. This cupboard door is left open. Someone is going to bash their head. This freezer door is left open. Someone is going to bash their head. This tabletop sharp corners. Old satellites and moon buggies stuck in Earth's orbit collide in silence. Gliding like swans on glass smooth water, a silky lullaby of around and around the merry-go-round. They merrily go round again. Someone is falling on tarmac. Someone is falling off skateboards on tarmac, off rollerblades on tarmac. Someone is falling. All rivers run downhill in an SSS shape. Walking straight down a mountain will only hurt your knees. When they tried to straighten out the rivers, they overflowed their new restrictive edges. I was tumbling down. My head hit with such force, they said it got brain shake. It showed up as soft fuzz in the X-ray. At the moment of impact, a spew of dreams appeared in rapid fire, clicking past like images in an old slide projector that was sped up too fast. Doof, 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 puffed. The fuse blows, all the lights go out. Now is the time to kiss you. In the dark, when no one is watching, your skin so soft against mine. People have been doing this since the beginning of time, kissing with bodies close. I am on the roof looking at the skyline. I can't believe that I am here. I dreamt it up, but this time it came true. I want to walk the streets to remember, so goddamn nostalgic. I am remembering someone else's memories, someone else's feelings. Was it ever even this way, the way they said it had been? I am so bored of ownership. I am so bored of not sharing. I am so bored of money hoarding. I am so bored of what's mine is mine. I am so bored of what's mine is not yours. I am so bored of the top. I don't want to climb a mountain. I want to go to the bog where the trees grow low and thick. I want the marshland where the mud sucks up your feet and clings to your thighs. My marsh is on the moors where the giants were, in Cornwall, in Devon, the West Country, where the ocean is not far and the ponies run free. The hand is in my belly, the hand is in my belly, and it waves. My body shakes. Oh, these hands in my belly, rough and disrupting, then soft and holding, and the tears pop out. Things are supposed to burst and rupture. I know. The snow didn't come this year. It will come in spring. Then spring will come in winter, and the rivers will burst their banks from all the rain, and the fishes will float to the surface, their tummies turned up. And the water will dry up, leaving minerals and crispy river skank, and I will be there on that riverbank. That is no longer a riverbank, looking for you in your bright orange coat. Even though you're on the other side, we hold hands. It's warmer that way. And when the rain comes, this warm, ashy rain, it will fall to make yellow puddles, and we'll kiss. Kiss hard like love. It's okay, we'll say, the earth, the yellow putrid. It will all be okay. That's the end. Thank you. Thank you.
So much, Reeve. That was really, really beautiful. Such a lovely way to end a really, really rich conversation. So just once again, thank you again to Gian Marco, Hillary, Joe, Philip, Daniel, Joey, Annabella, and Donna. We'd also like to thank Janet Stapleton for her support in advance of today's conversation, today's event. Shout out also to the Terra Foundation for sponsoring our NSE program and making these daily conversations possible, as well as for their support of our growing archive, which you can check out on our YouTube channel. And for the past 22 years, the Rail has provided a platform for arts, culture, and politics in our monthly publication, and public events like NSE. So please check the chat for a link to donate to support the Rail. And join us tomorrow if you're free at 1 p.m. for a conversation with Alvaro Barrington and Gabby Collins Fernandez on the event of Oh Sandy, Sandy, Sandy at Karma. We conclude with a poetry reading by Yasmina Martin. And you can now all turn on your microphones and say hello and goodbye as you leave. Thank you so much for being here today. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
Reed,
you.
that was
Thank
incredible.
That was
Thank you.
amazing.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh, that's
you
great.
all.
Thank you for having us.